So first up, I have the honor of bringing to you President Howard of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators. President Howard, we'll toss it to you.
I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am about 263 steps from George Floyd Square, which is one of the longest running occupied spaces, resistance spaces in American history. We've been here since May 25, 2020, fighting for stolen lives of Black and Indigenous and people of color. And I gotta say, that actually has prepared us for what has become very obvious to people around the country and probably around the world as extension of that, which is the ICE siege of the city of Minneapolis right now. Um, we're we're suffering. We are, but we are also um, surprising them. I think we are confounding them with our constancy. The fact that every single day the members of Minneapolis Federation of Educators get up and they put on their whistles and they go outside and along with community members, they are holding it down, armed with, a phone and with a camera on it and a whistle. We are keeping ICE away from our kiddos who these deputized goons are trying to intimidate. Obviously, this is unsustainable. It's untenable. And so we are going on the offensive. We're in the city of Minneapolis, in the state of Minnesota, where we pride ourselves on our Fortune 500 companies. And we realize that power concedes nothing without a demand. And so now we're on the attack, we're on the offensive. If we got to go and take it to corporations that house ICE agents, if we got to go to corporations that look the other way while federal agents come and harass their workers or their clients or their customers, then we're taking it to them. And so you will see escalating actions, and not just of those corporations, but even the corporations that sustain those corporations. Yeah, you might hear about us coming to Target, our hometown store, but what about SPS Commerce, who their business to business data transfer actually undergirds everything that Target is doing with between them and their vendors? What about them? Right? Right? You're talking about ICE agents. What about Delta? Because they putting them on a plane and bring them there. Huh? No quarter. They picked the wrong state. They hate us because they ain't us. They hate us because they ain't us.
Getting a whole bunch of amens and hearts and all of it. So yeah, if you're with our fearless leader, President Howard, I need you to tell her in the chat. Somebody say amen, because she just dropped a word and gave us some marching orders. So thank you for being here tonight. On top of everything else, we're grateful for your leadership and your courage.
The one thing that I do want everybody to know, I don't know where you're from, the thing that is saving Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities they call us, is this. Before I showed up here, we had already forged relationship with each other. And it could have been because of what happened with Philando Castile, if y'all remember, or with George Floyd, if y'all remember. We know our neighbors. Like, we know our neighbors. We the Twin Cities, but frankly, we just we three raccoons in a trench coat thinking we're a metropolitan area. We know each other. South side, we outside, right? And so because we know our neighbors, when they come for one of us, they come for all of us, right? Isn't that a union thing? But now it's real. We're literally, since 2020, especially, the unions show up for other unions. We own each other's line. The neighborhood organizations, instead of fighting each other for we the land of 10,000 lakes and the land of 10,000 nonprofits, but we show up for each other. You feel me?
Right. That's totally right.
We show up for each other. So whatever somebody else's issue is, that becomes that other person's issue, whether it's rent reduction or wage theft or all of that. we gotta stop fighting for a little bit of crumbs. We got to, because that's how they get us. That's how they get us. And because we are family now, we had already like dug a track in the road. So when they came, it was like, boom, mutual aid, boom, connections, boom, I got you. We whistling, okay, boom. You got that block by block, we taking our city back.
And I can't think of a better person to follow that than one of my personal kinfolks, a homie, a colleague, a comrade of mine. We're going to bring up the incredible Candace Montgomery, an organizer with Free MN and a whole slew of other organizing outfits. Candace, come on up. We're going to bring you up next.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for that introduction, comrade. I appreciate it a lot. I think there'll be some slides that are coming up, but just wanted to offer a little tiny bit more of grounding of what is still happening here in Minnesota, mostly to say that a drawdown from 3,000 to 2,300 agents is not a drawdown, that we are still experiencing high levels of violence and continued violations of First Amendment rights. I just want to really emphasize that though we are experiencing high levels of violence here, I think many of us feel that we are winning. Not just the story, but actually really winning on the ground. We are pushing back. And that looks like a whole ton of defensive work. Every day on my commute, I see multiple neighbors in yellow vests protecting outside of schools, protecting outside of different hot zones across the city. I see mutual aid funds making sure that people are getting their rent paid while they have to basically stay safe inside. Grocery deliveries, all of that stuff on the defensive is really about caring for each other. And then there's a bunch of work that we're going to talk about today on the offense, and really not waiting around for us to get what we need, but fighting for that. So move to the next slide here. And all of that is really to say, if folks are paying attention, if you're thinking about authoritarianism and how we beat it, there are folks out there in the world who study this, who have studied these things historically. I get the opportunity to study this. And mostly what we know here in Minnesota is that civil resistance, nonviolent direct action, and mass movements are what beat authoritarianism. This graph kind of shows you that without a civil resistance movement, we are at 7.5% likely chance to actually push back on backslide of democracy and a consolidation of authoritarian power. But when we build that movement, which we are doing here in Minnesota, I heard a new stat that like 38% of Minnesotans in some way participated on the 23rd of January, no shopping, no school, no work. And even more so, we're more likely to be authoritarianism when we have organized labor, which many of us are part of that, right? We are part of a working class of folks who are here for that. So this is part of our winning strategy and what we know is necessary. Next slide. And this is really just to say, like, this is the recipe. This is how we're thinking about it here in Minneapolis and different parts, that we have to build a mass movement that brings more people in, not just to like Marcia said, you know, Facebook or whatever, but actually to be in action together. It's about non-cooperation. It's saying we're no longer going to abide by the status quo. That both is like getting businesses to defect from supporting the regime, as well as everyday folks to taking away their compliance. Minneapolis is showing the country how you connect and care for your neighbor. And we need to stop allowing the right to use polarization as a dirty word and repolarize our people around a choice, right? What is the world that we want? And are you here for the world as it is, in which neighbors can be snatched out of their houses without warrant, or a world as it should be, where we're caring for each other, where rent is paid, where school is free and accessible, etc. And then continuing to move more people to our side. We have to talk to the folks who don't agree with us, oftentimes because they've been sold a whole bunch of lies about how the right is trying to be on their side, and we need to move those people to our side and be like, nah, bro, that is actually not it, right? And having these conversations, as well as getting and putting pressure on businesses to and other places to defect from the regime. Next slide. Kind of already said this, so we'll just keep going. So ultimately, I'm here to talk about what is happening in Minnesota and kick it off for my other comrades to talk more in detail. But we are going after the corporations that are supporting ICE by allowing them to eat at their establishments, sleep in their hotels, or renting cars, or allowing them to park in their parking lot while they terrorize our community. And we're really doing this with Free Minnesota and other partners by using creative nonviolent action to put pressure and encourage businesses to not cooperate with ICE. And hopefully y'all have seen some of those great videos. And so this is really about knocking down the business pillar, the corporations pillar that are ultimately allowing for ICE to have the things they need to do what they're doing and allow the regime to continue on. And we've been targeting places like Hilton, restaurants, Enterprise, and Target. And I'm going to pass it to some more comrades to talk exactly about how we're doing that and then how you all can get involved. Thank you so much for being here and taking your time.
I am Veronica Mendez-Moore. I am coordinating corporate campaigns specifically focused on Target with the ICE Out Now Minnesota coalition. And, some of my colleagues have already said why corporate campaigns matter. And I'll just add another piece to this, which is that, here in Minnesota, everything that's happened and, our governor, has said bad things, has said good things. But at the end of the day, Trump does not care what the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, Democrat, has to say about anything. He doesn't care about what our mayor, Jacob Fry, for the good and the bad that he said. He doesn't care because who's really propping him up, who's really holding him up and on his team are the corporations. And so there's the different kinds of targets like Sakib talked about. And I think one piece of that that's really critical is that any of these corporations that we can move to defect is going to help make our alignment, the movement, stronger, and is going to make Trump weaker. And we know that in Minnesota, Target has significant economic power and influence, both their space economically, but also just the relationships they hold, the way that they move the economy here, the way that they move society here, the role that they've played in our communities in the past. They're so embedded, and like in order for us to be able to, I think, move other of the players and have a domino effect in Minnesota, I believe Target is the place for us to start. And so we have been focusing in on Target over the last weeks, months, maybe a month. We have really been focused on doing not only disruptions in the store, not only trying to slow down business. We are acting in solidarity with folks who are leading the DEI boycott campaign locally, Black grassroots leaders who have held that down for a year. We're acting in solidarity with them. We're also looking at different kinds of strategies, right? It's not just about mass protests, and it's not just about boycotts. It's about how we make it bigger than that through going, investor strategies, pension funds. There's just a lot of different ways that we can come at them so that they're regularly surprised when we hit them from a different angle. And excuse me. And so over the last week here, we've done a number of different sit-ins. It's starting to get under their skin. I'm sitting here in the basement of a church right now because we just had a nonviolent direct action training for a bunch of big actions that are going to be happening locally in Minnesota tomorrow and also on a national level. So there's, in the chat right now is how you can launch an action. So the thing, just like everything else in this moment, everything doesn't have to come from a long established, campaign and organization, which is the way that we often move. But in this moment, we are creating opportunities for anyone and everyone to plug in. So just like mutual aid that you can do on your block, patrolling that you can do on your school, ways for people to plug in near them. We're also distributing these actions such that people can they can host a store. So the link in the chat right now is to click on, and you can host an action. You just put it on the map. You get yourself together, a handful of people, and you can go do a delegation and deliver a letter. Or maybe you're able to, publicize and get it more turnout, and you can lead a sit-in. There are a number of different ways of being able to be disruptive there. It's just a matter of like letting them know that you're there is the way that we start to build the pressure on them. And so I encourage folks to get involved, whether it's in the Target campaign and in other campaigns, in these distributed actions where even if you're thinking, man, I don't know how to organize a big protest, start with something small. And that's the same way that we've been successful in feeding our neighbors and in getting the kids in our neighborhood to school in a way that doesn't risk their families, is we start small, we start where we are, and then we go big and we connect with more organizations, and we connect on a national level, we connect on an international level. And I think those are the ways to plug in. And specifically with this Target actions, like I said, that's in the chat, we encourage people to participate in what is now a week of action that we're really going to launch in Minnesota tomorrow with a big set of actions. And then folks from all over the country will be participating in more. So please look on that map if you can host a store and do anything from something small to something big. Go inside with 3 people and sing a song. Anything, any step that you feel like you can take, we want to invite you to do that.
And as Candace was saying, that isn't just going on defense, it's going on offense as well. So I'm here today to talk to you about our No Sleep for ICE campaign specifically. And as I talk, I'm going to give you guys the link to do an action to basically book, I sent it to the wrong chat, to basically book and cancel Hilton reservations. And so you can do that while I'm talking. And I hope by the end, we have 1,000 people on this call. So maybe we can make 1,000 reservations that we are ready to cancel. So the core logic of this campaign is exactly what Candace and Beto and so many others laid out. At the end of the day, ICE thinks they can send in forces to our city, but we are the ones who actually run the city. We are the ones who build the roads, who clear the snow from the roads. We're the ones who staff the hotels, who run the rental car agencies, who run the restaurants. And ICE cannot operate without ordinary people letting them operate. That's like the most key thing for us to wrap our heads around, because they try to make us believe that we do not have power. But the reality is that ordinary people have every ounce of power in this society. And if we start acting like it, then we can actually kick ICE out. And 700 agents down is not a victory, but it is a mark of them understanding that they are not winning in Minneapolis, and we need to keep that pressure up. So that's why we're running our No Sleep for ICE campaign, and we are starting specifically with targeting Hilton. We're targeting Hilton because we, one, know that they're housing ICE in huge numbers across the Twin Cities. 2, we know that they are willing to hold a line. They have said that they won't be used as a literal deportation holding facility, and they won't let ICE use them to hold immigrants. And they also have dropped a hotel that's refused ICE. So what we're showing them is that they have more to lose from standing with ICE than they have to gain. We're showing them that ordinary people are going to boycott them, are going to book and cancel their rooms, are going to make so much noise outside of their hotels that their guests can't sleep, and that they complain, that they will lose on their bottom line. They will suffer financial losses if they make this choice. That's what we're showing them right now. And the really cool thing is that it is working. We've been doing a couple of key tactics. We've been showing up overnight in the middle of the night, making a lot of noise. Maybe people have seen this, maybe put like a heart or thumbs up if you've seen this happening. Okay, I'm seeing some of them coming up. Yeah, so we've been showing up in the middle of the night, making a lot of noise and waking people up. We have been booking rooms and then canceling them last minute when we have free reservations, to basically make them lose money, and also to make sure that ICE cannot actually themselves book rooms. We have been flooding their reviews. We have also been running a citywide campaign to revoke the liquor licenses of hotels that are housing ICE as a way to show them that like the city will not cooperate with them. So we've been going at every single angle. And the reason we picked Hilton in part was because there are so many angles to go in on this campaign at. Many people have a Hilton near them. We can have workers refuse to house ICE. We can have managers refuse to have ICE, and all the way up to the corporate level. We can have the corporation itself say that ICE is not welcome in the hotel. And the really cool thing is that it's like really been working. We have distributed a tip line across the country and in Minneapolis where hotel workers can give us tips about where ICE is at. We've had workers thank us for coming. We've had managers like call and let us know that ICE is there and ask us to do a noise protest there to get an excuse to kick ICE out. We've had an increasing number of hotels actually start to kick ICE out. If you go onto Hilton's social media right now, you can see every single post from when ICE entered Minneapolis is flooded with comments saying, oh, I know that you host ICE here. I'm never going to Hilton again. I'm canceling my Hilton Honors membership. It's like honestly really fun to pull up your Instagram and scroll through the comments because you can just see the incredible impact we've already had. A few days ago, a member of Hilton's branding team actually called us to convince us that what we were doing was super ineffective and definitely not going to work, which I think is hilarious and definitely a sign that it's working a lot more than they want it to. Yeah, super convincing. They should have maybe hidden what their title was before calling us so we couldn't figure it out. Yeah, it's working and it needs more momentum. And the most exciting thing about it is that it's starting to spread. Last week, there was an action in New York in a Hilton lobby. This week, there have been ones at the Hilton CEO's house in Baltimore. There was one in Texas. There was one in Portland a few nights ago. And it's really cool to see them popping up all around the country and this organic energy as people start to realize that Hilton is housing ICE. And we start to show that any company that publicly affiliates themselves with ICE will lose out. We have ordinary people on our side. They do not. They do not have public opinion on their side right now. And we need to wield the power that we have access to show them that their guns and their military might will not cow us into submission. That's what we're doing right now. So if that's a fight that you want to be part of, I am putting this in the chat right now again, smvmt.org/Hilton. I'm gonna put it in. And let's see if once people have filled it out, let's have you put something in the chat whenever you've like actually booked and canceled a hotel reservation. Let's see if we can get a couple of them in here. As people are filling it out, I'll say two more things. One, I'll say that this only starts with Hilton. We want Hilton to kick out ICE, but this is the beginning. This is like the first domino in a long row of dominoes that first it's Hilton and then it's every hotel company. And then it's like every company that wants to make money right now. And then it's like the police and the military defecting. It's like Republican lawmakers. And what we are actually doing right now is creating a mass movement so powerful and so large that Trump cannot hold on to power, and that we are actually able to not only oust Trump, but win the political and structural changes to our system that we need in order to build a better world. That's the movement we're building right now. That's the movement that you all are right here as part of. Let's say put a flame in the chat when you've done it. You should be able to book online. The last thing I'll say is, yeah, it's really cool that it's working. I've seen the chats come in. The last thing I'll say is it's exhausting to be in Minneapolis right now. It feels like every moment your whole body is like in overdrive and like you can't let your guard down for a second. And the thing that is giving me courage is seeing the level of people in my city, across the country, across the world, who have their eyes on Minneapolis and who are so willing to be brave and courageous and loving beyond anything they ever imagined was possible. That's what's making the difference. Dictators fall when they overestimate their own power and they underestimate the people that they're trying to rule over. That's the mistake that Trump just made.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be with you all, and just seeing the over 1,000 people that tuned in is, for me, sitting in Minneapolis and seeing ICE outside of this window this week, just so inspiring. So I really appreciate you all for being here. So I'm one of the Free MN organizers that is helping to lead the ICE Out Enterprise campaign. So about a month ago, we learned from Enterprise car rental employees that over 1,000 cars were being rented to ICE on a contract. And we've been working hard to build relationships with Enterprise employees since then, and in doing so have learned that they've continued to rent more cars to ICE since January. And what they're doing with these cars is they're brutalizing our neighbors, they're kidnapping our families, they're stalking legal observers, and we need to do something about it. So about a month ago, we launched a campaign, and that campaign has two goals. So the first is to convince Enterprise to cancel its contract with ICE, to make it clear that doing business with ICE is bad for business, and to make an example of Enterprise for other car rental agencies and other corporations, bar none. Again, that doing business with ICE is bad for business. And we approach this campaign with two strategies. So both outside game and inside game. So outside game, applying pressure to the corporation, as well as playing an inside game. I saw someone earlier in the chat ask, what about the workers? What if corporations are not going to agree to defect? And we have been intentionally building relationship with Enterprise car rental workers for the purposes of gaining their allyship and their defection. We approach this campaign with the idea that anyone we interact with is a potential ally. So we launched this a month ago, first with a day of action at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. You might have seen a TikTok video going around. We had a ton of Minnesota community members show up to the Enterprise Rental Car Center at the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport and get in line and go up to the counter. First, build relationship. They brought treats. I think there were donuts involved, maybe coffee, and they booked cars, or they reserved cars. And then they went to the back of the line, got in line again, waited until their turn, and they canceled cars. And they did this on repeat, on repeat, on repeat, knowing that as well, the workers knew what was up, and that part of the work of fighting authoritarianism is aligning with the interests of those involved and getting a sense of, like, how has your day been? I hear things are rough right now for Enterprise. How is this going for you? And that day of action here in the Twin Cities evolved to an ongoing campaign. And so we've had amazing folks show up and organize pods, so small groups of friends, family, folks from church, your garage band, your knitting circle, organized pods to engage in what has now been 30 days of daily action. Again, applying pressure from the outside and working to gain allyship from the inside of Enterprise to get them to cancel their contracts with ICE. And those actions that they've been doing around the greater Twin Cities metro and into the suburbs and even into some rural locations are tangible, they're specific, they're things that you can do. Sure, they include going and building a relationship at the Enterprise Rental Center, but they also include sending some emails from your couch. They also include booking and canceling rental cars at no cost from your home. And they have been doing this, hundreds of these folks have been doing this in small pods for a month now and inspire me every single day. And now we're calling on you to bring this campaign global. So on President's Day in the United States, on Monday, the 16th of February, we are calling on you all, on folks around the globe, to host a protest at your most local Enterprise Rental Center. And we want these protests occurring at every Enterprise Rental Center to fill a map around the globe, to say, not my president, no to authoritarianism, no to ICE. And we're hoping that that also then evolved into you founding a pod that can maybe adopt your local enterprise rental center with some really tangible, specific actions that we will support you with. And we'll help you out along the way. So sign up using the Action Network link that is in the chat. We will give you toolkits, chants, protest songs, everything you need to make it happen. We're even doing some coaching this Thursday if folks have questions about how to make this possible. Here's the link for what's also in the chat. So we're calling on you now to say, no authoritarianism, not in my community, not my president. And we have one more ask, which is we're building a movement of leaders that know how to fight authoritarianism and fill that void with connection and relationship and care. And we were learning that doing so costs some money. So if you're unable to join us on the 16th, maybe you have a spare few dollars, we would appreciate it so we can build a movement here, a non-cooperation movement here in Minnesota that truly fights and defeats authoritarianism.